right, we're going to try this again this evening. My name is Lisa Smith. This is take two, as Lauren just signaled. This is Enlightening Conversations with the YWCA of Hanover. So we usually have quite a bit to talk about, and that is definitely the case this evening. Hopefully the technology will bear us out. So we ran into a little issue a few seconds ago, but I think we're back on track. Our topic this evening, however, is a difficult one. It's not easy to talk about people getting hurt, particularly women getting hurt. At least it's not for most of us. And one of the things that we have been discovering over the last few days in preparation for this is that the issue is the same, no matter where you live, no matter who you are, what your culture is, what your background is. There are always seem to be opportunities for women to be hurt, to be captured, kidnapped, gone missing, murdered, taken advantage of, you name it. The opportunity is there. But on the other hand, there are also opportunities of people who are there willing to help and willing to support people. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. Not only the statistics and the grim facts of what happens oftentimes to women, but what we can do to prevent that and to help those who are caught up in these issues. We have with us tonight Lauren Souders, who's with our Safe Home program at the YWCA. She is a prevention advocate. And if there's anything that would definitely make this situation better, would be the prevention of the violence against women. So I'm anxious to get to talk to her and find out what we can do in that realm. But first of all, let's talk a little bit about some of the statistics, some of the issues that we find among women in various parts of the country. According to the National Crime Information Center, in a 1 year's time, in a typical year recently, over 250,000 girls and women were reported missing in the US. Who were these women? You probably knew a number of them. At least you knew their names. Gabby Petito, Natalie Holloway, Lacey Peterson, Elizabeth Smart, JC Dugard. Some of the cases, some of the names actually helped us enact new laws to prevent this from happening over and over again. Names like Amber Hagerman. Her case brought us action that created the Amber Alert for when someone does go missing. Or Megan Kanka, whose tragic situation led to the development of Megan's Law, which now requires people to be registered if they have a history of these heinous acts. Each of these situations were different. They were different locales. The victims were of different ages. Some were even very young girls. The families offered great rewards in some cases, and in other cases, they didn't have the means to offer rewards. They simply hoped and prayed along with the rest of us. Sometimes there were communities that went together and searched. Sometimes it was left in the hands of the police and FBI to do the searching. But one thing was always the same with that list of names that I just read. Every one of those women were white. And that's why we know so many of their names. They were all white women. But they make up a small portion of that 250,000 women and girls who were reported missing in an average year in the US. Why don't we know about the others? Well, when a white girl or a white woman goes missing, they have at their access, the family has at their access, a far greater opportunity to get publicity, to get media interest, to get action taken to try to find their missing loved one. Even in markets with highly diverse demographics and highly diverse readership or viewership, 51% of white female homicide cases are covered compared to only about 30% for women of color and only 18% for Indigenous women. That's a crime, in my opinion. That really is. And Lauren, I can see you agreeing with me there too. Some of that, I think, comes back to the tropes about the angry Black woman or the strong Hispanic woman, the feeling that either those folks, those people deserved it, they had it coming to them, or they're strong, they can take care of themselves, and we don't need to band around to help them as a community. And nothing could be further than the truth. So we fall into the trap of what is known as the white woman syndrome. It was a term that was coined recently by some female journalists to talk about the fact that we only hear about these crimes when they're committed against white women. And yet that's the much smaller portion of the crimes that are committed. I mentioned that Lauren is with Safe Home, a local organization founded by the YWCA about 40 years ago to help women who are facing violent situations in their home, in their workplace, wherever they happen to encounter it. And there are groups similar to Safe Home in many communities across the country. One of these groups is working particularly on the issue of murdered and missing Indigenous women. And this group is based in New Mexico. We have some information from them. We were not able to get any of their members to speak. They are an all volunteer corps, and we were not able to get any of them to speak with us this evening, but we do have information from them that I'm going to try to share on the screen, and we may need Mr. Lou's assistance here, but if I can do this correctly, we're going to share the screen here. They just recently did a study of a, let me see if we got this right. There, can you see it?
Yes, we can.
You can, okay, good. The organization known as Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women did a study in 2018, and they looked back at the first year of completed statistics that was available, which was 2016. And they looked at the number of women, Indigenous women, girls, and two-spirits, which would refer to either trans women or lesbian women. And they looked at the crime statistics for the number of those women who were missing, women, girls, and two-spirits. 5,712 were listed with the National Crime Information Center. Now, what that means is that's how many people were reported as Indigenous women, girls, and two-spirits in 2016. That doesn't necessarily mean that's all there were. However, the Department of Justice, meaning FBI, local police force, county sheriffs, any law enforcement agency that would be involved in helping to search for them, only listed 116 of those persons in their database. So although 5,712 women and girls were reported missing, only 116 showed up in the Department of Justice database. How can they be found if nobody's looking? And that's an issue that MMIW has run into consistently. In the US, Native American women are more than twice as likely to experience violence than any other demographic in the country. 1 in 3 Indigenous women is sexually assaulted during her life, and 67% of these assaults are perpetrated by non-Indigenous perpetrators. The majority of murders committed on Indigenous women are by non-natives, but they occur on native land, which raises some big issues when it comes to law enforcement. The CDC reports that murder is the third leading cause of death for Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirits. Some of the issues that this particular community encounters that is maybe a little different for them, maybe somewhat the same in dealing with this issue is the jurisdiction, because of the fact that a number of the community members live on reservations. Who's in charge there? Is it the tribal council? Is it the county sheriff? Is it federal law enforcement, which could be the FBI? Who do you call when you're not sure exactly who's responsible for helping you find your loved one? Or the time gap. In many cases, depending on the age of the individual, you're forced to wait 24 hours before you can report someone as officially missing, because maybe they're old enough in the eyes of the law to be able to just disappear on their own. But you, as a loved one, know that person better than anyone else, and you know whether or not that is in their character to simply disappear. So, but the law may say 24 hours have to go by before you can report it, depending on their age. And oftentimes there is a lack of trust between law enforcement officials and tribal elders, depending on where the situation occurred. These are issues that the MMIW found were very prevalent for them in dealing with missing women and girls in their community. And we're going to find out, I think, as we talk with Lauren, that they're not exclusive to Indigenous women. We have some of the same problems locally amongst all races, all classifications, all communities. We also have people in our backyard who don't necessarily live on reservations, obviously, but they are a rather closed community. I'm thinking in particular of a case a year and a half ago of a young girl, 18-year-old girl, Linda Stolfus, a young Amish woman who was kidnapped on her way home from church and was missing from her family for quite some time until she was found in a ditch, and she had been assaulted and murdered. And I would assume that there could have been some issue of uncomfortableness in opening that community to law enforcement, some issues with what do we tell people, how soon do we have to wait to report it because she's 18 years old. You know, those kind of issues are not defined only by Indigenous communities. One of the things, there were a number of things that came out of this study, but one of them that really struck me was this quote by LaDonna Brave Bull Allard with the Standing Rock Sioux tribe, who said, "The abuse of women is well known in history, and it tells you a lot about what is happening to our earth." If you talk to someone who is well-versed in the history of women and how they have been treated over the years, you'll notice that it also parallels oftentimes the way we tend to treat Mother Earth, which is an interesting parallel, but a topic for another whole evening. So tonight, I think it would be better if we spend some time talking about what we can do rather than what history has shown us, but what can we do to help women, to help girls, to possibly prevent some of this violence, or to help people deal with it when they have encountered it. So to that end, I'm going to stop talking and refer our discussion back to Lauren Souders. As I mentioned earlier, Lauren is the prevention advocate for Hanover YWCA Safe Home, which is quite an adult at this point, right? 41 years old, Safe Home is?
Yeah, Safe Home was established in 1981 as a response to the community need for a DV service provider. And so, yeah, we're going on 41 years now. It's hard to believe that we've been in the Hanover community. And we've recently expanded in 2019 into the Adams County area as well. So we're providing services locally in Hanover, as well as for all of Adams County, which is the Gettysburg and Fairfield, New Oxford, those areas as well. But yeah, so as in relation to what we can do to really prevent this, like I said, we have our prevention program. So we partnered with the Monique Burr Foundation for Children over the summer of 2021, so last calendar year. And we are providing a evidence-based curriculum, and we have done some outreach and we're working with some local schools. But that program really focuses on 5 different safety rules that we teach children so that they can know how to respond to different situations. It's very comprehensive. It covers all different forms of abuse, all different forms of bullying, cyberbullying, digital dangers. We even touch in the upper grade levels, we touch on relationship abuse, dating abuse, and trafficking and exploitation. And again, we all go back to those 5 safety rules so that the children know, that they need to know what's up and they need to look for the rules and regulations for different things. What are the rules? What are the regulations? They need to know those things, just like we as adults should know how to report missing people or what should happen if one of our family members doesn't come home from work or school. Who do we call if we can't get in touch with them? When do we start getting concerned? And I think that that's different for every community. But that's our first safety rule, is teaching kids, you have to know what's up. You have to know what to look for, be aware of your environment, be aware of what's normal and what's maybe not so normal for the environment that you're in. If you're in a schoolhouse, what might seem off? If you're at church, what might seem off? And when should you then go alert your safe adult? And that's really what it all ties back to, is going back to who are your safe adults in your life? Who can you go to? What are and that's really what we focus on, is getting kids to identify the safe adults in their life. And then we teach them about different red flags for different kinds of child abuse, for, again, dating violence, trafficking. Again, in the upper grade levels, we talk about sexual assault as well, and consent, because all of these issues do tie in together. And, it's all violence. It's all, we're talking about violence against women today, but they all do interconnect with one another. And so again, if we have that community standard of what is safe, what is appropriate, and how do we respond to unsafe or inappropriate behavior, and making sure that that's, consistent across the community, then we can really help prevent these occurrences from happening.
At what age do you do that? Do you start talking to children about this, Lauren?
So honestly, we've worked with the preschoolers at the Y, talking about, safe and unsafe touches, unwanted touches, private body parts, who their safe adults are. We've partnered with the Adams County Children's Advocacy Center. So they handle, in Adams County, they really work with the elementary schools and the lower grade levels. And we primarily work in Adams County with the high schools and the middle schools. So again, we're trying to make this as wide as we can, community, so that it's going from preschool all the way through, even into college. We partnered with Gettysburg College. We're in the works with talking to the, oh my gosh, I'm totally blanking on the community college's name right now. But HAC is the acronym for them.
Harrisburg Area Community College. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I'm new to the area a little bit, so I still don't have all of the names down, but we're currently working with them, starting to talk to them about different prevention things that we can do on campus for their Gettysburg campus. So again, we're community
Yeah.
wide.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I'm curious about the speaking with the children. Are you finding that the parents are receiving this? Are they receptive to the conversations, or do you have issues with the parents not being receptive?
So far, knock on wood, we haven't had any. They've been very receptive.
Good.
I've had very little interaction with parents. I usually interact with the classroom teacher or the director for the daycare or whatever, the guidance counselor. But I do ask and I say, how did parents receive that? For the younger grade levels, I like to send a letter out beforehand so that they know, when we just did with the WISE preschool, just so that parents are aware, like, hey, we're going to have this conversation with your children. Here's how you can prepare them. And here's how you can follow up with them. And that way it gives parents some actionable steps that they can take to have the same conversations with their children in a, private setting, in a more, just whatever they may see they need to tell them.
Right.
And I let them know, this is what we're going to say. When we did the preschool, I was like, I'm not going to tell them names for private body parts. We're going to refer to them as private body parts. But in the event someone should inappropriately touch them, you may want to teach them the real names for those things.
Yeah.
That way, if they do disclose that to anyone, any of the safe adults in their lives, the safe adult knows how to respond appropriately.
Right.
And so parents, and even with our prevention program, we send letters home with the students, and the guidance counselors and classroom teachers typically notify parents that we're coming in to speak with them. And so they've been very receptive from what I have heard. Yeah, they're saying like, oh, it's so great that we are doing this. We really need this. I'm so happy that they're learning about this, because a lot of times parents don't know where to start. They don't know what to say, and they're uncomfortable.
It's not a comfortable topic for most parents to take on. Yeah.
Exactly. And so we're just trying to do our part and help parents help their kids, because I think we all have that common goal of, we want children to be safe, and then we want them to grow into safe and healthy, functional adults.
Right.
And when we all kind of have that same common goal and we can focus on how to do that as best we can, I think that helps all of us work together for that same common goal.
Right. What happens then when the children get to about middle school age or into high school? How does the conversation switch then with what you present?
So it really builds on that. So again, talking back to the preschool, we start with the safe touches, unsafe touches, unwanted touches. And then throughout middle school, it kind of builds on that. I don't know exactly what grade level, but they will start talking about the different forms of child abuse, like physical abuse, and they'll touch on sexual abuse, emotional abuse. So they do define that, and they tell kids, this is abuse, and this is what it can look like, and this is what it might feel like, and this is how you respond to it. And that way, if they're ever in a situation where they're being groomed to be abused, we talk a little bit about that grooming process and what that looks like as well. In the middle school, specifically the middle school grades, is when we really start talking about that. I want to say it's 5th, 6th grade that we start talking about grooming, because a lot of 5th and 6th graders are starting their social media journey, and they're on the internet, and a lot of them have phones now. And so it's how to use that stuff appropriately and what to look out for, and making sure they understand, like, we're on your team. We just want to make sure you're safe and healthy. And that is primarily our primary goal as caregivers, as adults. And so that's really what we focus on in the upper levels. High schoolers tend to have a lot of questions related to what we do. They want to know, how did you get, like, what kind of degree do you need to do a job like this? So they ask a lot of those kinds of questions. And then they ask a lot of questions that are like specific to situations. So now we really try and take another advocate with us when we go into school. So that way we have 2 or 3 people in the event that someone should need to talk to someone. Because I've found when I've gone into high schools that seems to be the case, that a lot of high school aged students really do need someone to talk to. Even if it's only 1 or 2 kids, if I'm there the whole day, to me, it's worth bringing that second person just so that they can know what their options are, know that we're here to support them, and how we can help them.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you give kind of concrete advice on how to deal with, date pressure and the whole, I have a granddaughter who's going off to college in the fall. So all of a sudden my head is full of all these scary scenarios. And every show that talks about young girls in college going to a frat party just terrify me. So do you approach those kind of scenarios with the high school age students to give them some kind of an idea of, you're not defenseless, you can protect yourself?
Well, again, we go back to those 5 safety rules. So even from like preschool, I really focus on like, here's a concrete rule of talking to your safe adult.
Yeah.
Then we go back to like in the grade levels, we really do talk about those 5 safety rules. And with the high school age students, I also, we do talk about consent. There is a whole topic on that. Yeah. And I try and partner with our local sexual assault agencies as well to come in and do something either in partnership with me or maybe like within the next couple of days or weeks, or at least they're getting something from another agency that's kind of saying the same things that we are.
Okay.
Because we don't provide services for victims of specifically of sexual assault. We do if it falls under the umbrella of intimate partner assault. So if it were to happen within a dating relationship, or if you're just hooking up, or you've been talking and there's been like that romantic interest, we can assist with those situations, or if it's a familial assault.
But not strangers, right?
Not strangers, not a classmate, a coworker, an acquaintance.
Right.
If you were to call our hotline, we would absolutely patch you through to and get you in touch with the assault agency. So we try and partner with them a lot when it comes to colleges, when it comes to the high schoolers, and we try and make sure that they know that that agency is there as well, because we do know like 1 in 5 women experience assault, whether it's in a relationship, familial, or a stranger, or and so it's really important that they know there are services and there are people who are willing to help. As you said at the very beginning of this, there are people out there who will help you through this period of your life.
Yeah.
This trauma.
Yeah.
So we do talk about that at the high school age, and we let them know, again, going back to those same 5 safety rules, what are some red flags that you can look out for? How can you protect yourself? If you know what's up, making sure that you have, somebody kind of like the mom of the group or whatever you want to call it, somebody who's looking out for you, who's gonna, keep tabs on everybody, and those kinds of things. And then we talk about making a move. So if you get, you spot a red flag, you get kind of creeped out, you just get away from that person, stay away from that person. But again, it's hard to do that if it's your roommate, your classmate, your somebody that you're in close proximity with, if it's someone in the same dorm as you. So what do you do? Who are your safe adults in those situations? And again, when we get to the 11th, 12th grade, when we talk to college age students, I really frame it like I'm saying talk to a safe adult, but that doesn't necessarily mean a safe adult. That might be your RA, that might be the Title IX office, that might be our agency calling a hotline. Right. That's a safe adult. You're reaching out for help. You're telling somebody what happened, and they're going to talk you through that process, and you're going to let them know, and we're going to help you. And so I make sure they know that those services and those agencies exist and they're out there.
I'm so thrilled to hear all of the prevention and education portion of Safe Home. I think I mentioned to you when we first met that I served on the board of the YWCA, what feels like 800 years ago, but it was really only 41 years ago. And my first board meeting, first meeting that I attended as a brand new board member was the meeting where the board appropriated the funds to start Safe Home. And naive as I was, I thought, it's a fantastic program. This is sorely needed, and surely we will fix this situation quickly. And this program, will be a short-lived program because we will fix all of the people who need this. It just will be done. No, didn't happen that way. How naive was I, you know? And here we are 41 years later, and not only is the problem still rampant, but we've served women in so many different ways. And now, if the problem can be fixed, if it can be prevented, it's because of people like you, Lauren, who are getting that story out and making the next generation of women and young boys as well stronger, and teaching them how to not live like this. But I know on the other side of it, there are still people who are suffering from violence, who didn't have the benefit of growing up with the talk about the prevention and the 5 points, and didn't have a safe adult to go to. What are we doing as Safe Home, as a DV program? How are we helping those women now?
Well, we offer our services. We have a variety of different services as well to offer. We have our 24-hour hotline that's available 24/7. One of our advocates staffs that 24/7, nights, weekends, holidays. It's always on. And through that hotline, we can do a crisis counseling, we do options counseling. And again, we just tell people, given whatever situation there is, because every situation is unique. So their options are going to be different given what they've experienced, given, you know, if they share a home with the person that is perpetrating the violence against them, or if they don't, you know, every situation is different. So we just let them know what their options are for our specific community, what their options are in Adams County, what their options might be in Hanover or York County, where we can, what agencies we partner with. As well, we partner with a lot of community agencies so that we can offer them, if they should need clinical counseling or therapy, we can hook them up and refer them to a partnering agency where they can get that therapy, so that they can, again, move forward from whatever they may have experienced and learn how to deal with that, cope with that, and really have a healthy life moving forward from that. We also have our housing programs. So let's say someone does want to leave, but they need assistance finding a job. We have job binders in our office where we come across job postings, we put them in there that are local. And so that way, if somebody's in our office and may need a job, we just have to grab that binder, they can flip through it, they have a couple places they can start applying to. And again, it's those kinds of things. We have a pantry in our locations. We actually have 2 offices. We have one in Hanover and another in Gettysburg. And so we have pantry in both of those locations. So if somebody needs, one of our clients needs food, diapers, paper towels, toilet paper, those kinds of things, clothes, because we do have women and men that may flee in the middle of the night and not have anything. Right. Toothbrush, toothpaste, deodorant, those kinds of personal care items. And we do have those stocked in both of our offices, so that if anyone is coming to us in need, we try and make it a one-stop shop. And if we can't supply it, we do know someone who can. Yeah. And we have our housing programs as well. So again, if somebody's leaving an abusive situation, they don't have housing, we help provide them housing with what's the word I'm looking for? We partner with local shelters. Since we don't have a physical shelter, we do partner with our local shelters in Adams and York counties, and even in surrounding counties outside of that we can help, get them to if they need that. And then we have our temporary housing programs and our transitional housing program and our rapid rehousing program. And so those are our 2 housing programs that we can offer that would offer some financial assistance for anyone who may need housing, and help them get some housing through like 2-in-1 and things like that. So we have a lot of different programs. Again, if people come to us in all different kinds of needs, and we try and make sure those needs can get met either by us or by someone else in the community. Yeah, that's great. That's great. How many women and their children, I guess oftentimes
I would think when a woman is in need of the services, she's got children in tow. How many women and families have we served, in a typical year or something?
So I can say in last year, we served a total of 1,004 clients.
Wow.
That probably does not count children, as they would be like dependents of the mother or the
Okay.
father, whichever we are providing services for. So that would just be for the adults. Mostly I can say, I'm looking at our stats right now. At a total, we did have quite a few child victims as well. Under the age of 18, it looks like we had about 34 that we worked with last year for children specifically.
Okay.
Lauren, is that
we're not necessarily.
Is that for all of 2021?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm just going to give you a stark statistic here from 1 month. From 1 month. So divide this by 31, if you will. For January 2022, served 134 clients. That's 71 new clients that have never been served before. And the remainder, 63, are returning clients.
Mhm.
Wow.
But there's some other statistics here, but that just, because I get these statistics for dissemination possibly to our social media, and very, very basic statistics. Obviously, there's a lot of confidentiality, but that just stood out to me that there were 63 returning clients. So.
Well, I was going to say that 1,004 number that I gave is just new clients.
That's just new.
Those were just new clients. Yeah. And so as Lou was saying, we do have a lot of clients that return. So that number does not account for them. So again, if they enrolled in one of our housing programs and they're still working with us in the next year, they would be considered a returning client the next month or subsequent months. So that number is just for new clientele. And we do have a lot of people that return for services, and sometimes it's just years later, they just need someone to talk to, or they may realize they need that clinical therapy that we had talked about in that initial session, that we could help them with. And so they'll come back to us and say, this is something I'm still struggling with.
Yeah.
And we do work with them.
You mentioned when you were giving the statistics, Lauren, you said about, that mothers coming with children, or could be fathers coming. Do we get many men who come in, that they are the victim and not the perpetrator?
So looking at the statistics that I have in front of me, yes, we get quite a few men. Last year in the calendar year, it was 68 new clients that were male. Wow. And then the rest were female. So nearly about 10% of our clientele are male.
Right.
And I think that that's a population that's often underserved. There's a stigma with experiencing abuse as a male from your dating partner, around what is masculinity and
absolutely
what does abuse look like. And some people will go as far as to say that men can experience abuse in a relationship, which is just not true. They can. And so we do have males that come to us, any gender, we'll provide services for as long as they need them. Right.
Yeah. That surprises me. And I think I'm not alone in that, because it's not what you think of, when you think of the typical clientele. Another thing, question that came to mind when Lou was giving us those statistics for January, is there a peak time of the year? Was January's number so high because, it's just after the holidays, or what? How does it flow through the year?
So I'm not sure if there's like a peak time. I don't have the breakdown of month to month in front of me.
Okay.
I would say that we do, oftentimes see a lot of things like on Mondays or Fridays, we get a lot of calls. And oftentimes around holidays, we might get a lot of calls just because that's when stress is up. People
Yeah.
are stressed and people are more volatile, I feel, at those times.
Mhm.
Same thing with like a new moon, full moon is what I think I meant. Those kinds of things. But I'm not sure if there's a specific time of the year. I can say with COVID, when restrictions
Yeah.
we saw a huge influx of
I can imagine.
clientele coming out, because I think that when COVID happened, they just assumed that these services were kind of shut down when we were not.
Yeah.
But they might not have been able to leave. They were kind of stuck. A lot of them were stuck in the house with their abusers. So
Mhm.
it's
Made everything worse. Yeah.
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
they came forward as soon as they could.
Yeah.
So we did see that that happened right around I want to say like this time last year probably. There was a huge influx, but I'm not sure about any point in time in the year. I would have to get back to you on that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Now we've mentioned this, but hadn't really delved into it. And it's the issue you had said about the issue of grooming, and that stuck in my head because of all of the publicity surrounding the court case with Ghislaine Maxwell and how she supposedly groomed all these young women to be sexual slaves for her cohort in crime and his buddies. And whether I'm not passing judgment, I don't know if she was guilty or not, because I didn't follow enough of it to even be an armchair, judge. But is that something that you find when you're talking to the young girls, that they go, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about, that they have experienced some of those early actions that would fall under the line of grooming?
I'm really not sure if they've experienced it or they oftentimes have a lot of questions. What I try and communicate to them about grooming is that oftentimes you don't know it's happening because of the way that traffickers, when we're talking about grooming in the sense of someone who's grooming someone for abuse or grooming someone for trafficking purposes, oftentimes they're very manipulative, and so they have this very sweet demeanor. When it comes to young children, they will oftentimes groom the family members as well. So they'll groom their caregivers, and that way they're trusted with that child in private.
So it's not as evident. Yeah.
And of course, we see the things online of someone meeting someone online, and that grooming situation happen as well. And so when I go out to schools and we talk about grooming, we show a video on exploitation. I think it's from Net Smarts or Kid Smarts, which has a lot of great resources for any parents who may be watching. It's a great resource for teaching about online safety with your children. But we show a video from that about a girl who experienced grooming and how someone posed as a boy her age, commented on her picture, and then they started, messaging back and forth.
Okay.
And so that led to some pictures being exchanged. That led to some blackmail and coercion and what we call sextortion, where it was, if you don't send me more videos or more pictures, I'm going to show all of these to your parents. I'm going to post them publicly, those kinds of things. And so we talk to all the teens about this. This behavior is wrong. You don't know who's on the other end of that computer screen or who's on the other end of that phone. Even, with, as you were saying, sometimes it can be a female. Sometimes it can be someone your own age who is tricking you because they're being forced to do that behavior as well. They're being coerced into doing that for their own safety, or for the safety of someone that they love and care about. And so it's hard for us, if we haven't experienced that and we don't know much about this world, for us to imagine that, I don't know how to say her name, Ghislaine.
Yeah.
It can be hard to imagine that she would do something like that, I guess, for some people. But for me, I was like, she might have been a victim herself.
Yeah.
Very, very possible.
Mhm.
And we do see that a lot, is that the victims then not become the traffickers, but they become, when we're talking about trafficking specifically, they may become the recruiter for
Yeah,
the
part of the whole process. Yeah.
exactly. They
Yeah.
kind of move up the chain. So now they're not down here. They don't have to necessarily exchange sex acts anymore or whatever it may be, but they might still have to do something to maintain their own safety and well-being,
Mhm.
or that of their children or their parents, their loved ones, whoever it may be.
Mhm. Yeah, kind of part of the machine. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it sounds like there's so much to be done from the education and prevention, the whole way through to the providing of services, and then of course you got to raise the funds to be able to do all that. How does Safe Home function? I mean, how many of you are there?
Not enough.
Yeah.
But currently, we have I think it's 11 employees right now. We are in a little bit of a transition period. We have some people who are retiring. We're hiring types of things. Right now, we are hiring a client advocate and a housing advocate. And there may be some other positions up on our website for anyone who may be watching. But we do have 11 employees. We have 8 full-time supervisors and advocates. We have one who is part-time helping us during this transition period. And then we have 2 transportation advocates, which they work like 2 hours each day, 3 hours. They kind of come in as needed when somebody needs to kind of be taken to and from court, or they might need help getting to our office for their appointment, things like that.
Yeah. Okay. And do you still utilize the services of volunteers, or is it all staff driven?
We love our volunteers. Thank you all so much. If you're watching this, adore you. I would call a few out by name, but Angie, Susan, all of you, Rosa. So we have several volunteers that do our hotline. We have some more that we have some that come into the office. They might help put together like client folders that we need to have together. They might help put together, we give each client a packet about what our services are, what services they're getting, things like that. So we have them come in. We have one volunteer who really helps with our pantry, organizing our pantry, going through and clearing out things that are about to expire. We will take anything that's about to expire and donate it to a more used pantry in the community. So again, that food doesn't get thrown out. It doesn't, we try and make sure that we catch it before that expiration date. We clean out our pantry usually once every month or 2 months. We go through it, and she comes in and brings us a lot of donations, ones that she brings herself or that she's collected in the community. So we're doing all of those things, and we're working with our Gettysburg College right now. We have some interns as well that are helping us with outreach at the college level to make sure that the college students know that we're out and available, and they're helping out with various tasks for their internship.
That's great. That's great. Now that you said about, always looking for more.
Always looking for more.
Yeah. You mentioned donations in relationship to the pantry. Are there any other items that, I mean, all cash is always helpful. In addition, I'm sorry.
I said, yeah, we'll take your money.
Yeah. But in addition to that, what other kind of things could Safe Home use?
Really just pantry goods, those dried goods. I think a lot of things that go quickly in our pantry are things that are ready to go meals, like those, microwavable Chef Boyardees, those complete meals, things that if somebody's in a very temporary housing situation or a shelter, they may only have access to a microwave, or they may be staying in a hotel or at a friend's house or something like that. Right. So it's great to have things that they can grab and know, if I leave this in my car, it'll be fine. I can still put it in the microwave and eat it whenever I need to. So those types of things. Some other like less donated things that go quickly are like cleaning supplies. I'm trying to think, like toilet paper. That goes very quickly. Same thing with like paper towels and those kinds of paper goods. And then some people donate some really nice things like face masks, nail polish, things that just help people feel better, and they're going
Mhm.
through those types of things.
Yeah,
And oftentimes, and I can't tell you, nearly every client that I've assisted in the pantry says, I don't want to take more than I need. And I always
Yeah.
am like, take this face mask because I think you need it and no one else is going to use it before it expires. So take
yeah,
it. So again, like the things that get donated, they go to good use. And I'm always the one who's pushing the things. I'm like, I think you need this. I think it's a need now.
yeah.
Yeah, those types of things are great. And then we have a lot of different things, but again, anything that expires, we can't use enough of types of stuff because we're constantly
'Cause
going through our pantry and redistributing things.
Well, yeah, if when you have over 1,000 clients in the course of a year, things are going to go quickly. Yeah, yeah, absolutely,
And one thing
absolutely.
I will say, if we donate canned goods, it's helpful to have a can opener. Like
Oh,
another thing. That's something
oh,
that we
yeah,
do not often, but sometimes these are people who are literally transitioning their housing. And so if they might not have many funds, they might not take canned goods because they know they don't have a can opener. So if we can have those kinds of things, or if you donate something that would require milk, putting a powdered milk packet that they just have to add water to so that they can have
Mhm.
some milk substitute, because we don't have a refrigerated section of our pantry, and
Right,
milk is like what, $5 a gallon now, so like
yeah,
it's expensive. And so those are things that oftentimes people don't think about. We have a lot of cereals in our pantry and sometimes people won't grab them because they don't have milk, and they don't know if they're going to be able to get milk before
Mhm.
those kinds of
Right,
things. So
yeah.
those are
It's,
just
it-
some lesser things to think
it's
of.
amazing the things you don't think of, like the can opener kind of
Oh, I
thing.
would have never, before
Yeah,
this job, I never would have thought about donating a can opener.
right,
I donated canned goods or
yeah,
powdered milk. And I think from now on, those are things I will donate. And then of course,
right.
like clothing, baby items, baby food, and formula, especially with the recall recently. We had to get rid of several of our canisters. But those kinds of things are really helpful. And
Mhm.
maybe toys can be helpful as well.
Right, yeah,
Rattles,
yeah,
little teething things, those kinds of things.
yeah. I think the only thing that we didn't mention in talking about Safe Home is the number, how they can reach you. So, and if I can make it happen again, I've got a slide that has some information on here. See if I can get this to work.
PowerPoint there.
Is it up there?
No, I think you got to click on the PowerPoint, but
Yeah,
the little, yeah, right there.
there it is. There it is.
Our
Okay,
number.
now it came up.
Mhm.
Yes, the phone number 717-632-0007.
And
So,
we do community education so for anyone out there who would like more information or would like a individualized training for your organization, that's something that we can assist with as well. And you can just call that hotline number and they'll put you in touch with me.
okay. Lou, do we have any questions from anyone?
We do not.
Okay,
But I would also mention to anybody that's watching that maybe is it not in need of services, but looking to assist, can always go to our website, www.ywcahanover.org. And on our website, you can find our listing for Safe Home in their wish list.
great. That would be great. That would be great. Lauren just illuminated some of them, so you know that can openers and powdered milk are definitely on that list, but then other things that you may not have thought of would probably be on there as well. So I'm sure that questions will come to mind as people see this later or as they're thinking about this, because this is, as I mentioned earlier, it's not an easy topic to think about or even to talk about. But as we saw with the Indigenous women, as we noticed with the Amish women, and here in Hanover with our local folks, this is a topic that we all need to be aware of and to be cognizant of and find ways to help each other through. This phone number right here, the 717-632-0007 will get you connected to a group of women who have been working on this for over 40 years, and they know how to get you to a safe place and to help keep you safe and to help you turn your life around so that it's definitely a better life for you and for your children. So before we close up for this evening, I wanted to thank Lauren for her time. You have been a wealth of information and so bright and cheery about it all that it just makes it better on this dreary spring evening, talking about such a difficult topic. So I appreciate that. And I'm really glad to hear that all of that work is going into preventing the issue from compounding over the years. I also wanted to mention a couple of events coming up here in the future with the YW. On April 9th, the YWCA will be working with Guthrie Memorial Library to present a human library. This is an opportunity that instead of taking out a book and reading all about it, you get to take out a person. Well, not actually take them out, but you get to check them out and sit and talk with them for a little while and learn all about them, straight from the horse's mouth, so to speak, rather than reading all about it. So that's the Human Library at the Guthrie Memorial Library, April 9th at 7 o'clock, a joint program of the YWCA and the Guthrie Memorial Library. We do a lot of things at the YW in conjunction with other folks. It's just the way to make it work these days. And our next Enlightened conversation will be on April 20th at 7 p.m. And the topic is civil rights. What does that mean today? And we'll be talking with Dr. Todd Allen of Messiah University, just right up the road from us here on Route 15. And he will be bringing us up to date on what the topic of civil rights actually means in today's world. So I think that's pretty much it for this evening. If you have any questions or concerns about the topic of domestic violence, please get in touch with Safe Home 717-632-0007. And if you have ideas for future topics for Enlightened conversations, please let us know at the YWCA in Hanover. We look forward to talking with you and hearing more about whatever is going on in your world. Thank you. Good night.